On the day of his crucifixion, Jesus cried out, "Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done." And there are times in our lives when we find ourselves making a similar choice between our will and the will of something much larger than ourselves. For some, this might be a higher calling or a moral obligation. For others, it may be the difficult decision to adhere to a deeply held belief system. But in the end, the outcome is the same. We find ourselves bound to an unwelcome fate. Hi, I'm here. In this video, we'll explore how the strength to endure comes from accepting our bonds, not in spite of ourselves, but because of them. And I'll show you why sometimes the most radical act of faith is to break a heart that will never break yours. Act 1. The Emotional Seeds. The playwright Lillian Hellman once said, "A playwright always begins with an agreeable and likable hero until he knows what the play is about. Then he makes the likable hero do terrible things." We all possess something akin to this inner tyrant, a truth teller that speaks up when our characters are falling into line. Our inner demons often emerge subtly, like soft whispers in the recesses of our minds, almost invisible threads woven into the fabric of our experiences. Their presence is subtle but potent, forming a complex emotional landscape that drives our actions and shapes our destinies. Like a silent conductor, they orchestrate a symphony of emotions, swaying us towards decisions that we may not fully comprehend or even agree with. For instance, fear might manifest as a primal tremor within us, a response to the unsettling feeling of loss, rejection, or betrayal. This could be triggered by the mundane or the monumental, a spilled cup of coffee or a broken promise. The body reacts instinctively, mirroring the turmoil in our thoughts. At that moment, the seed of hatred is sown, nurtured by the fertile ground of our primal emotions. But fear alone cannot bear the fruit of hatred. It requires a companion, a fellow traveler on this treacherous path. Enter unfulfilled desire, a longing for something just out of reach. This could be a yearning for connection, recognition, or belonging. Picture a parent standing at their child's school play, desperately trying to capture their child's fleeting performance on a camera. The scene captures a deep emotional truth, the desire to preserve a moment, a fear of missing out, of forgetting. It's a universal experience, a raw portrayal of the primal need to hold on, to remember. But in the face of limitations, this desire can curdle into resentment. Imagine a job interview where a candidate feels they were overlooked for a position they truly wanted. They observe their peers achieving success while they remain stagnant. This breeds a sense of unfairness and envy. The unfulfilled desire morphs into bitterness, a potent ingredient in the brewing concoction of hatred. And then there's neglect, the slow burn of invisibility. This could be the feeling of being ignored or overlooked, of not being seen or celebrated for one's contributions. Think of a loyal employee working diligently behind the scenes, their efforts unnoticed and unappreciated. Day after day, their dedication grows, yet it's taken for granted. The ache of this neglect festers. It seeps into the cracks of their existence, slowly corroding their sense of self-worth. The pain of being unseen can transform into a simmering resentment, a catalyst in a long journey towards hatred. Each of these emotional landscapes plays a part in shaping the terrain of our inner lives, laying the groundwork for the potential growth of hatred. Hatred doesn't appear fully formed. It takes root in the fertile soil of our emotions, nurtured by the winds of our circumstances. Like a weed pushing through concrete, it finds purchase in the cracks of our experiences, growing steadily, inexorably towards the surface. And then there's ego wounds, those moments when loyalty or trust is misplaced or disregarded. Perhaps an intimate partner cheats on a deeply devoted spouse, or a friend betrays a secret entrusted to them. These moments shatter the core of our being, leaving us fractured and disillusioned. The pain of such betrayals can lead to a profound sense of disorientation. It feels as though the ground beneath our feet has vanished, leaving us suspended in a void of uncertainty. This disorientation can pave the way for hatred to take root. It's as if the scales have fallen from our eyes, revealing the harsh reality of those we once admired. Suddenly, the image of the beloved, the friend, the mentor, collapses, exposing a chilling emptiness beneath. The depth of our pain transforms into a bitter pill of resentment, the feeling of having been deceived, of having invested our trust and affection in vain, creates a chasm of despair within us. It's as though a part of our soul has been ripped away, leaving behind a gaping wound that cries out for justice. Envy and comparison also play a role. Each of these experiences is a testament to the complexity of human emotion. They remind us that hatred rarely finds purchase in a vacuum. It germinates in the fertile soil of our experiences, taking root in the subtle cracks of our psyche. Much like a skilled gardener, life presents us with a bouquet of emotions to cultivate. Some, like joy and contentment, bring forth sweet blossoms of peace. Others, such as fear, unfulfilled desire, and neglect, bear the bitter fruit of discontent. Yet it's in the tending and transformation of these latter emotions that our true growth lies. Act 2. The persona possessed. At its core, hatred is a possession, a forceful takeover of our emotional and cognitive landscape. Once hatred takes root, it gradually assumes control over our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's as though a dark cloud descends, casting a long shadow over our perceptions and decisions. Consider the individual who has experienced prolonged and intense neglect. Imagine someone who has been overlooked, underestimated, or disregarded for so long that they've internalized these experiences as truths about themselves. Over time, this constant barrage of devaluation can morph into a deep-seated conviction that they are inherently unworthy or insignificant. Hatred then emerges as a defense mechanism, a shield to protect a fragile ego from further hurt. Similarly, the person who has suffered a profound ego wound might find themselves grappling with a distorted sense of self. Betrayal, deception, or humiliation can leave deep scars, leading to a pervasive sense of paranoia or distrust. Hatred then acts as a coping strategy, a means to navigate a world that suddenly seems treacherous and unkind. Picture someone driven by relentless envy, constantly comparing themselves to others and falling short. This can lead to a profound sense of dissatisfaction and discontent. Hatred then emerges as a way to quell the turmoil, a means to silence the incessant voice of self-criticism that echoes in their mind. It's important to recognize that hatred isn't merely a passing emotion. It's a force that seeks to permeate every aspect of our being. It's a tyrant that demands absolute obedience, a puppeteer that pulls the strings of our thoughts and actions. Once it gains a foothold, it weaves itself into the very fabric of our identity, shaping our perceptions and influencing our behaviors in ways that we might not even realize. Act 3. The mythic warning. In the tapestry of human emotions, hatred stands out as a dark and intricate thread, a pattern that has captured both fascination and fear throughout history. But perhaps the most crucial thing to understand about hatred is that it is not the opposite of love, as commonly believed, but rather a perversion of it. Hatred, in essence, is love denied, distorted, or betrayed. It's the anguished cry of a heart that has been wounded so deeply it fears to love again. It's the tragic tale of a soul that has been wronged so profoundly it seeks solace in loathing. The seeds of hatred are sown in the fertile soil of unmet needs and fester in the shadows of unaddressed grievances. It's a relentless cycle that perpetuates itself, feeding on pain and prejudice until it metastasizes into a destructive force. Think of Romeo and Juliet, two young lovers whose affection for each other defies the age-old animosity between their families. Their forbidden love, however, leads to a series of tragic events, culminating in the deaths of both. Romeo, driven by hatred for his foe, murders Juliet's cousin, only to discover her feigned death. Consumed by despair, he takes his own life. Upon awakening to find Romeo dead, Juliet, upon realizing the depth of the deception, follows suit. Their intertwined love and hatred weave a haunting narrative, illustrating how these emotions can intertwine and amplify each other. Another powerful example is found in Shakespeare's Othello, a valiant Moorish general who is manipulated by his ensign, Iago, into believing his wife Desdemona is unfaithful. Fueled by jealousy and hatred, Othello strangles Desdemona, only to discover too late that he's been the victim of a sinister plot. This tragedy underscores how hatred, once ignited, can distort our perceptions, leading us to commit acts we later come to regret. These stories serve as stark reminders, echoing across time to warn us of the insidious nature of hatred. Hatred is not a distant, isolated emotion. It's a reflection of our deepest fears and insecurities, a perversion of the very emotions that make us human. Act 4. The Call to Stewardship. There is a profound Zen saying that encapsulates the essence of dealing with challenging emotions. When you point one finger, there are 3 pointing back to you. This simple adage holds a powerful message for us, urging us to look inward when faced with outward animosity. We often have a tendency to externalize our negative emotions, directing our anger and frustration towards others. But this approach fails to address the root causes of our discontent. Instead, it creates a ripple effect of negativity that perpetuates a cycle of hatred. The solution lies in what the Zens call bringing the middle finger back, a metaphor for acknowledging and addressing our own role in the situation. By doing so, we disrupt this cycle and begin the journey towards healing and understanding. Here's how we can apply this principle in our daily lives. First, we must be willing to confront our emotions, not suppress or ignore them. Suppressing negative emotions is like trying to hold a ball underwater. It takes effort, but eventually it pops up with a force that surprises us. Similarly, ignoring our emotional wounds does not make them disappear. It only allows them to fester and grow. Instead, we should acknowledge our emotions, give them a name, and explore their origins. Where does this anger stem from? What unmet needs or unresolved conflicts are contributing to my feelings of hatred? Once we've identified these emotions and understood their roots, we must take responsibility for our reactions. We are not, however, called to condemn ourselves, but to recognize that our feelings, while valid, are not absolute truths. Ask yourself, am I allowing my emotions to cloud my judgment? Am I holding on to grudges or seeking revenge? Finally, we must extend compassion, not only towards ourselves, but also towards others. Hatred often stems from pain, fear, or misunderstanding. By recognizing this, we can begin to dismantle the barriers of animosity that separate us and foster empathy and understanding. In essence, bringing the middle finger back involves a shift in perspective. It's about moving from a place of blame and judgment to one of self-awareness and empathy. It's a journey that leads to emotional resilience and the ability to navigate the complexities of human relationships with grace and understanding. When we follow this path, we don't simply suppress our emotions or give in to them. We engage with them, understand them, and respond to them in a way that promotes healing and personal growth. So the next time you find yourself wrestling with feelings of hatred or anger, remember the Zen teaching. Turn inward, explore your emotions, take responsibility for your reactions, and extend compassion to yourself and others. It's in this circle of understanding and empathy that we find the antidote to hatred and the path to genuine inner peace. And this is where our video is going to culminate. Hatred is a story we tell ourselves when love has been denied, distorted, or betrayed. But stories can be rewritten, even now. We've traced the origins of hatred, its growth, and its dangers. But we've also shown that it's not an inescapable fate. Hatred is a story, a narrative we construct in response to pain, disappointment, or betrayal. It's a way of making sense of the world when it seems unjust, unfair, or cruel. Yet this story, like all stories, can be rewritten. It takes courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront the uncomfortable truths of our experiences. It demands that we acknowledge the wounds of our past and tend to them with care. It calls for us to recognize our own biases, prejudices, and the ways in which we might be perpetuating the cycle of animosity. Ultimately, the choice is ours. Will we continue to dwell in the shadows of hatred, or will we step into the light of understanding, compassion, and forgiveness? The path forward is never easy, but the rewards of peace, empathy, and genuine human connection